This new update turns Sandbox into Unity. There are new Entity Prefabs. You create a new prefab, and you can open up the prefab editor. This allows you to create Entity Prefabs, which can be spawned in like regular entities. So I can add a child entity. Looks like I can currently choose between an animated entity and a model entity. Let's go with an animated entity, and I can set the model. So this is the realistic character model. Inside of here, I can add other components. I don't have any components currently. However, if I had some, I could add them in here. Or I can create a new component. Is this blank? Yeah, this is completely blank. This new system allows you to put multiple entities inside of one prefab and spawn them together. So I could add another model in here. For example, the Team Fortress 2 Century. And I could move this around, maybe. How do I move it around? I don't think there's gizmos for it yet. The system was just implemented, so it looks like I have to move it in here. Do I have to type in a number? No. This is really cool. Now if I was to spawn this prefab in-game, it would spawn 2 entities along with all of their components, instead of only being able to spawn 1 entity at once. This is going to be incredibly useful for making complex objects, like a factory machine, for example. You can easily set up all the different trigger zones and individual physical buttons on the machine that you can press. Another example is interactive items in VR. You could make an entire spinny wheel and have all the individual pieces be combined into one entity prefab that you can just place down in your map. For reference, here's what the system looks like in Unity. You can open up individual prefabs and add multiple objects to it. So this prefab has multiple cubes in it now, and if I go back to my main scene, there's 2 cubes in this prefab. That's crazy. And I could spawn this in-game or place it in my levels. There's also been some initial work on a shader graph. Now, this is not in Sandbox yet. It's still an early prototype, and there's no guarantee that this will actually make its way into the final Sandbox engine. But this is really cool to see. And similarly to Unity, this will allow us to very easily create complex shaders. Recent Sandbox content updates include some minor updates to Construct and a few new clothing pieces. There's a new dirty old skirt. We can see this is very torn up and definitely well worn. There's also new shoes. These are called the clogs and socks. As you can see, they're green plastic shoes with really destroyed, nasty socks. There are also some new really nasty old worn jeans. It looks like this guy was born wearing this outfit and he's never changed it or washed it once. There are some new updates to Construct. If you look very closely, you can see the ground has been updated. There's more detail. The roads and sidewalks are a lot more dirty, and it looks like they've been patched up a lot more. This is really crazy. There's a lot of potholes, and over here, there's actually a 3D pothole. Now, I don't think there's any cars currently in Sandbox. No, there isn't a single vehicle. But theoretically, if you had a car and you drove over these potholes, it would be so realistic. Your car would actually bounce in the pothole. Whoa! The grass has gotten updated too. Now it's a lot dirtier with more mud and dirt paths everywhere. It looks like the 3D grass is gone. I think that's been missing for a while. I think how it was set up previously was just a super simple hack, and there's not an actual system in place yet for 3D grass. Also, one thing I want to mention is these wooden fences, they keep exploding by themselves and just breaking and launching themselves across the map. I thought I saw birds flying by a while ago, but it was actually these fences just exploding randomly. There's a new Easter egg that's come to light. That building in the background of Construct is not just any regular building. It's actually Facepunch's new office in real life. So if we take a look at Google Maps, we can see that's the Facepunch office building, and there it is in Construct. That's crazy. Now, they don't own the entire building. They have an office inside the building. So I figured I should mention that. The main menu has been updated again. This is what it looks like now. There are pictures on some of the games. Now, this actually keeps confusing me. I keep thinking this picture is for Strafe, but it's actually for Sand Tycoon. The name of it is above the picture. Not every Sandbox game has pictures on the main menu. I guess it depends on if the game itself has pictures. No, This game has screenshots, however, the screenshots are not appearing in the main menu. So maybe it's random if pictures appear? I'm not entirely sure. Other than that, the news tab has been updated. We can see there was a new Devblog. Speaking of new Devblog, there wasn't really anything new in it that I haven't already covered in these videos. And they're switching from monthly Devblogs to Devblogs based on new updates. So this Devblog was talking about the menu inspector updates, which we looked at in the previous Sandbox news video. There's also an events board, however, there aren't any events currently. There's a chat box. I think this is a global chat box, so I think we're talking to everybody that has Sandbox open right now. So if I was to type a message here, I could tell them, don't mind at night, and I think every single person that has Sandbox open can see that message, although I'm not entirely sure. And if I press tab, I can switch between global, party, and lobby chat. So I think if I was in a server and I typed a message here, it would show to everyone that's in the server. However, I'm not in a server, so it doesn't send to anyone. And if I was in a party, it would send it to everybody who's in my party. So that's crazy. The friends list has been updated. So now it looks like it shows all of your Steam friends, even the people who don't own Sandbox. So that's kind of annoying having to scroll through this gigantic list if they're not in Sandbox, but that's fine. And I can join people's games. It says he's in the main menu, so I don't know what's gonna happen. It's not connecting me. Oh, there it is, an error. I believe the server list, oh no, this has been updated too. So we can now search and we can refresh, maybe? Is there a refresh button? Oh, here it is. And we can toggle to disable empty servers and disable full servers. So that's really cool that the server list has been updated. The avatar menu is the same, I think, and the settings menu has been updated. So now it just looks slightly different visually. However, I believe most of the settings are the same. The field of view slider has been limited to only up to 100 now. I think before it went up to 130 field of view, which is crazy. That's such a huge field of view. And a lot of Sandbox games had to actually add a hard limit to the field of view just to prevent people from cheating by looking through walls with that crazy field of view. We can now see the cache and storage, so you can see how much storage all of the Sandbox servers and add-ons that you've downloaded are taking up. It's still loading, but it looks like I've used up over 8 gigabytes of content already, and I could delete 5 gigabytes of it if I wanted to. So that's really useful because Sandbox, it just eats up all of your storage when you join a ton of different games. There's also a developer council overlay. I don't know if that's this developer council because I have it off and it's still letting me pull this up. So maybe this is an overlay where it shows me all of these debug messages on my screen without having to have this up, although I'm not entirely sure. The game creation screen has been updated, so now when you create a game, this menu looks slightly different. Now, this was super confusing for me. I couldn't figure out how to change the map. If you click on the map, it takes you to a description of the map. Same with the add-ons and everything else. But it turns out what you actually have to do is click this icon here, and this will take you to the map browser, which is taking a very long time to load. So I don't know, it's actually not loading at all. Oh, there it goes. So here's the new maps list along with the new add-on list and the game browser. It shows the owner of the lobby. You can change the name, the player count, the private or joinable, and you can make it invisible or not. So these are all the settings we had before. It's just in a different menu. There are a bunch of nerd coder changes, including updates to render tags, hot loading, mixed shadows, and a ton more. Why is my frame rate so low? That was weird. I guess that's just regular Sandbox for you. Another notable nerd change is there's the start of an undo system. I'm not entirely sure how this is going to work. However, it's really cool to see the start of a default built-in undo system. Previously, if you wanted to have undo in your game, you had to manually code it yourself. There are some other minor tools updates. For example, you can now... Wait, why is the skybox black? They changed the default skybox texture now? Oh, that's weird. It has a weird name. Was it always named that? Man, good old Sandbox, always giving me the errors. You can disable the 2D skybox so it's more like Source 1, where everything is just completely black outside of the level. I'm not really sure when you would want to do this, but now you can. You can also disable the 3D skybox. Now this map does not have a 3D skybox in it, but you can turn that off now. Model dock has gotten updated too. You can now choose a custom background map. So previously we could choose between a couple different preset light environments, but now we can choose a map to load. For example, I can load up Stockyard. Now this might be a pretty heavy scene for the model preview, and it looks like I don't have all the assets installed, but we can now see how the lighting would look on a model inside of an actual level, just inside of the model editor, instead of having to spawn it in-game or put it inside of a map. So that's pretty useful for making sure the lighting is accurate. We can also more easily move around break pieces. These are the destructible bits of props to offset them slightly, so when you break a prop, all the different pieces don't get stuck inside each other. That's really crazy. These sandbox updates are super cool, super wild and wacky, and Sandbox is starting to look a lot more like a game engine now.